just give us a little bit of an introduction to yourself, where you came from in terms of getting to this place where now you can do these types of acquisitions, and apparently with some regularity. It's not just a one-time thing. So please bring us up to date.
So just a quick, brief background of where I came from. Once again, like I said on the Essentials, I'd always been an entrepreneur. Was one of those guys who was determined to make it work no matter what happened. And that situation and kind of having that mindset pushed me into dealing with all sorts of challenges in life, from being homeless, from starting a business to, getting on my feet and actually being homeless again because of business. But, and I'm giving you a condensed and brief version here, Gordon, but, I went through these challenges in life trying to figure things out, and I just knew that I could be an entrepreneur, that things would work out eventually. And I'm, figuring some stuff out, and I'm researching Henry Kravis, who, he's the pioneer of LBOs, or leverage buyouts, using the assets of a company in order to acquire that company. And here comes this commercial. It had to be back in the, I want to say the 80s maybe, man, commercial of this young guy named Gordon Bazar. And he's talking about how he became a millionaire. And, it was interesting enough. It was, it caught my attention, and it had me further research you. And when I researched Gordon, I came across the Essentials program in essence, and I took a dive for it. I said, well, hey, let's spend the money and let's see where it goes. But needless to say, from that first initial webinar that you did about for one, your initial first deal, which is the LBO that you did, and how you pulled the money together creatively, and also the transaction with the orderlies who bought a hospital, that was enough information for me to really jump out on faith and take a leap and take some of the experience that I experienced in business to go out and actually do a transaction. And that transaction landed me a multimillionaire in less than 30 days. So
that's a fantastic story. Somebody once told me the difference between being poor and broke is just a matter of mindset. You can be poor, that's permanent. Broke is temporary inconvenience. So you proved that out, and the fact that you were able to take that knowledge and just take it and run with it and get this done is really incredible. And I love it because I see it happening with some degree of frequency, and I love it when it does. Can you tell us a little bit about the first company that you acquired, and where you found it, how you found it, what it does, how it works, and then how you put the whole thing together?
I would love to. So originally, before coming across Gordon, I owned a real estate acquisitions firm where pretty much all we did in the company was we purchased real estate and we held on to it. So we used a buy and hold strategy, or the BRRRR method, which is we would buy it, renovate it, and rehab it, and then refinance it. After hearing your concept and your philosophies on really just business, it quickly made me realize that we were crawling to financial freedom. And when I say we were crawling, we were doing it one house at a time. And Gordon's, concept, if you all are, pro members and you study any of the material, he believes in external growth more than internal growth, because internal is really you're dependent on the operations. You have to be there for the company to grow. And most companies are not growing. You got to really be there. I'm thinking, over 40-hour weeks, to have it grow at 15%. So when I came across this model, I looked for companies that were either bigger than my company that I currently had, or the same size. And I, had the mindset, I'm going to double the size of my company. And doing so, I came across a professional, and we'll get into what we call professionals, Gordon, such as, attorneys and accountants and things of that nature. But I came across a professional who knew of a guy who was wanting to liquidate his business. It was almost one of the perfect situations that are happening every day. And it's not just a fluke. I mean, it's happening. We're having more deals come to us now that we've got a deal under our belt than we've ever had before. But what I'll say is we had a deal come to us. We went and spent some time with the guy. We spent a few weeks, went there, talked with him. And I say this over and over again, I really wasn't so concerned with the business that I, didn't make that cosmic bond that you talk about so much in Essentials and in Pro, I'm assuming, but I made that cosmic bond with the owner. And when I made the cosmic bond with him, he almost looked at me as a son, and he didn't have any grandchildren or children to pass this business down to. And I came in with very good intentions. I was looking and asking questions on how can I make the company or the sale of this company favorable, not just for myself, but for him. We call that a win-win situation, Gordon. So when I came in with that mindset, I really spent time that most people in an acquisition would not spend with a seller or an owner who they do not have a contract to sell the company, or they do not have a letter of intent signed. But because I spent that time with him, I learned a great deal about the company and the organization, and it helped me to structure the transaction to where it would be favorable for him tax-wise, and it would be favorable for myself as well. And even the employees that were there, we were able to pay them retirement pensions and things of that nature from the assets of the company. So one of the things I would like to, stress, just even being here on the call, is, always take the time to really get to know the seller. We look at ourselves like tailors who make suits, and every suit doesn't fit the same person. So in essence, we have to go in, find the needs of the seller, find the needs of the person who is selling the company, whether it be an individual, a corporation, or whatever the case may be. And we tailor a solution to fit their personal needs that is custom fit just for them. And because we do that, we position ourselves to be able to make these acquisitions, and there's really no competition. You said in Essential something that was very key, Gordon, and what you said was the reason why these deals are not getting done is because there's a lack of qualified buyers. And qualified buyers are not just limited to the amount of capital that you have at your disposal, but it boils down to the fact that people just do not know how to structure the transactions properly to where they are favorable for all parties involved. So by me spending this time with making this cosmic bond with the seller, I was driving them around, we're going and getting smoothies together. I mean, things that most people would say that's a waste of time, I was doing it. And I really took a genuine interest in him. And it dawned on me as I'm going through the financials, he really opened up to me, and he introduced me to all of his professionals, his accountants, which I already made the contact with over the phone the first time, his attorneys, and everybody who's helped him be this success over these 30 years. And as I was looking through his numbers, I realized he only had 6% leverage, or 6% debt, I should say, on these assets, over $3 million in assets. So I said, okay. I said, he's got 6% leverage. This is not bad. So I went to his bank and I asked him, hey, if I come in and purchase this company, what would you loan me against these assets? And they said, well, we know him. Is he going to stay a part of the company? Are you going to buy it right out? Because we're willing to do an 80-20 LTV, which is loan to value for those of you who don't know. So when they were willing to give me an 80-20 LTV, now I had to figure out the structure of the company to keep him in possibly, or to buy it right out. And what we came out to that was more beneficial than just buying them straight out was, instead of going in with cash, we structured a partnership, a limited liability partnership, which allowed him to retain a certain percentage of the company, but it left me as the majority owner and percentage holder of the company. So I was the decision maker. This looked good for two reasons, Gordon. For one, it looked great because when we go for the loan at the bank, they see that he's still a partner. And then also, I still have all of his experience, knowledge, and wisdom that he's gathered over all these years in this company that I can always pull from, because now he wants to see me succeed, because I'm going to owe him a lot of money for a long time. So the way we structured the deal is there was a 180-month payout in which we were paying him $5,000 a month on these assets, but we're going to come in, run the company, renovate the properties. And, he's getting this distribution. And because he was over the age of 65, we were able to set it up as a retirement distribution and, give him that tax break that he would have, taken a major hit on with capital gains had he had taken a all cash sale or all cash, payout. So this really worked out to his benefit. And it also worked out to my benefit, because I was able to come in, acquire a company with the company's assets, instantly changed my financial future and the financial future of my children, and then further move this transaction along and leverage a few things to be able to purchase the next transaction, which we're now in, which is the oil company. So
before we get into the oil company, what I'd like to just have you do, because sometimes our pro people, are so far past essentials that they kind of forget sometimes what they learned in essentials that's so critical to getting these deals done. So what is it that you got out of the essentials program that really made the difference for you here?
what really made the difference for me is understanding structure. And when I say structure, I had to realize most people, when they come into an acquisition, one of the biggest hurdles and obstacles that they have a hard time getting over is, where's the money going to come from? And it can almost be devastating and paralyzing if you let it, if you're sitting and thinking, especially if it's a large amount. But what helped me get over that hurdle was just hearing not only your story, but kind of thumbing through the essentials and seeing different ways to set the deal up and to structure it. And you got to get really creative. Secondly, another thing that I had gotten out of the essentials is the cosmic bond. When I tell you, believe it or not, that is one of the most key components to getting these transactions done, is that the seller has to like and trust you. It is so key. I'm in a transaction right now because the seller likes and trusts us. He's able to give us favorable terms. He's okay with us carrying this note for a long period of time. And he's allowing us to use his leverage and his assets to buy this company out and to do certain things. So those are some of the very key components. Another thing that we definitely picked up on the essentials was the evaluation of the company, properly evaluating the company, and even setting it up, because there are hidden liabilities that are in the company sometimes that the owner either forgets about or he doesn't disclose. And sometimes that can be to your benefit or to your detriment. But either which way, those three key components, I would say, will definitely get you in the door to, getting a profitable deal done. But if I had to pick one out of the three, I would definitely pick that cosmic bond, because sometimes where your experience or your lack of experience, I should say, and your lack of knowledge cannot get you, a genuine relationship with the person can take you there, because they'll overlook that stuff. They'll overlook the fact that you have never done one of these before. They'll overlook the fact that you may not have the money in the bank. And we've come up, Gordon, you and I, we've been on the phone and we've talked about some creative solutions for that. Not even having the money sometimes, that's, just, it's amazing what you can get done when you put your mind to it. There was a study that was done that talks about the brain, and it says that your first 5 responses when you are trying to figure out something are your initial human responses. And what happens after you go through those first initial human responses is you hit a brick wall. And at that brick wall is where creativity starts. So what I would encourage the members to do is get past your first initial responses on how I'm going to get the deal done, and get to the point where you can't figure it out, so that creativity can start and your brain subconsciously begins to work these deals out, and you will not believe what comes out of your mind at that point.
All so true, Brian, all so true. I want to just take this opportunity. A lot of the folks who are our pro members, once they left Essentials, they rarely go back there. And I always think that that's a great review of some of these basics and how they really hit home when you go back and review them those second, third, fourth, and fifth times.
Right.
But one of the things that I'd like you to comment on is 2 things. Is how many times have you reviewed that 2-hour initial course that's the main part of Essentials? And then what did you do with respect to going into those webinars that we have recorded there, and how valuable were they to you?
So here's the funny thing, Gordon. When I first initially heard the first webinar was like an hour and change long, I pulled out my phone. There's a voice recorder on my phone. I recorded it and downloaded the audio to a disc so that I could continue to play it over and over again. But I can't even count the number of times I listened to that particular transaction. I printed out the sheets that came with it, looked over them, and actually reviewed how the transaction was done using a swing loan or a bridge loan, and, just the creativity there. But furthermore, my business partner and I literally took the Essentials course like a PhD class. We would meet every night at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. We, told our families, hey, we're going to be late at the office. And we put it on our projector, and we literally sat and went through those courses, and we went through them like a entry level, or college degree almost. So we became proficient in it, but what we did not do is wait till we knew everything to try to get the next deal or to do a deal. We went with the information that we had. We got out there, we started making calls, and we got into the game. It's one thing to know how to play the game. It's another thing if you riding the bench. So we got out in the game, and we didn't let fear hold us back. We didn't know everything. I'm just telling you, I didn't know everything. I literally watched the one video when I did the deal that made me a multimillionaire, and I just acted on it. I believed that if Gordon can do it, I could do it too. And it worked out that way. It was exactly as you said. And once again, everything didn't go perfect. And I didn't do that deal exactly how you did it. But there are a lot of key components that were the same. And then the areas that were not the same, creativity kicked in. And I figured out other ways to get the deal done.
Yeah, that's excellent. Fantastic. Now, did you get into those webinars at all? Because we must have 50 hours worth of webinars in that Essentials program.
Yes, what I did was I went through the webinars first, and we picked out key ones that we felt like we needed to know. So some of the key ones that we picked out were the acquisition, dealing with the professionals, making the calls to the professionals. We also dove into the ARM calculator that you had created, which is how they evaluate most businesses, because we wanted to make sure we were evaluating the company properly and, looking over everything. And then we also started diving into the creative side of things, where you were actually talking about the structure of a company. So when you acquire it, the different type of structures and how you can take a company, or how you can buy the assets of the company. And, depending on how you structure it, you're open to different liabilities. So all of those certain key components, we just dove into it and figured, okay, what are the things that we need to know right away? Now that we've got this company and this deal is going to possibly go through, and we were on it, man. So it's the Essentials program, amazingly enough, has taken us to a point where not only have we done the deal once, but we've done it again, and for the same type of dollar amounts. The first deal I did was for $3.1 million. The deal we're in now, the estimated evaluation of sales that the company is doing is $3.5 million, netting somewhere around $450 per year. So, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but just to answer your question, we literally went through the webinar and we picked out the ones that really make sense. And, those are the ones that I labeled off to you, are the ones that we really targeted.
That's really great. Now, a lot of folks would say, well, this was just a fluke, right? This doesn't happen all the time. And how would you respond to that?
How I responded to it in the Essentials, which is luck favors the prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
But to give you a more solid answer, it wasn't luck at all. And what it really takes to get these deals done, it takes pure guts to believe you can do it. And you got to get it done. A lot of people can make excuses for failure all the time. And it's even harder to make it an excuse to succeed. So you just got to, figure out in your mind that you're going to do it and get it done, and make up in your mind that other people are doing this. This is a niche opportunity. The window of opportunity is very small, and it's not going to be around long. And you're going to get your piece of the pie while it's available.
Yeah, because this baby boomer retirement right now is feeding this dramatically, and in another 5 to 6 years, they'll all be retired, and these opportunities for this type of buying will be less. It'll always be there, but it'll be a lot less. Tell us a little bit about how you got the background to be able to do this too, because you sound very articulate. You sound like you've got a lot of knowledge already behind you that didn't all come from our course. So tell us a little bit about how you acquired the vocabulary and the knowledge that you have now.
Well, as we stated before, I do not have a college degree. I graduated high school, and that was with a very low GPA, maybe a 2.0. I think I made it out of high school because of the No Child Left Behind law that they passed. But needless to say, man, I definitely am an avid reader. I do read quite a bit, and I had a background in real estate. And because I came from a place with little or no money starting off, we had to find ways to get very creative in how we did business. And therefore, when I read or, watched your essentials things or the webinars, a lot of stuff clicked in me, and it was kind of second nature because we were already doing creative deals. And I started to think to myself, I'll do a $200,000 or $300,000 deal and make 10 or 20 grand on it. If I want to make millions, I got to focus on $1 million deals and up. So that was kind of the real start, because here's the thing, Gordon, the same energy and effort it takes to do a small deal. If you want to say, I want to start off and just get my feet wet and do a small company, a small acquisition, that same amount of energy and effort, it takes the same amount to do a large deal for millions. The numbers just change. So my background was not one of, immense education where I went to Harvard. I really come from humble beginnings, and I didn't have it made and I didn't have it easy, but what I did have was determination, and I felt like I could get it done. I had enough belief in my personal skill sets and my personal, ideas of business that I can make it happen. And again, Gordon, I've gone through multiple businesses. I started my first business probably when I was the age of 18, and it was a credit repair firm, and it wasn't a big firm, but I was, fixing people's credit from out of my parents' home, and had checks coming to the house and trying to figure things out. And that snowballs into me when I did my real first acquisition, Gordon, on a baby boomer. Parenthetically, I'm saying this, was when my grandfather had gotten sick and retired, and I bought his barbershop. We spent $6,000 on the barbershop. I had 7 barbers working for me, paying me booth rental, and I was using the booth rental to, work my way into real estate and to purchase assets that would pay me cash flow. I didn't want to keep working, and I was calculating my time. How long can I do this? I got 3 children, and they've got to eat, and, they're going to need college tuition and this and that. I'm thinking ahead. So it wasn't always that I went out and just did this one deal. I've gone through my failures. But what I did not do is I did not let my failures keep me down and keep me from moving forward and acquiring, a new business or starting over again. And that is something that I will encourage any and everybody. When things seem to be opaque and you don't know exactly how things are going to work out for you, you bumped this course and you're trying to figure it out and you don't think that it works, that's when the determination has to kick in, and you have to make up in your mind that you're going to do one of these acquisitions that can change your life and the future generations that come out of you and change their life, because all it takes is one deal.
Yeah, now the next step is to take you from $3 million deals to $30 million deals.
Absolutely. I'm all for it. I'm never complacent, man.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, it's like you said, it's the same amount of energy, and interestingly enough, almost the same amount of knowledge. It's just a question of the techniques get a little more sophisticated, and you start to talk to a little bit more intelligent people on the other side. But you actually will find it easier to get a deal financed, because if you're talking about a few $100,000 in financing, almost no one's interested in that because nobody can make any real money on that. When you start talking $3 or $4 million, well, now you start to get people interested. When you start talking $30 million, now you really start to get serious interest because people want to do those deals because they can make a lot of money on them. So it actually, believe it or not, will get easier. That's the irony of the whole thing. I want to invite everybody to just write down their questions in the question box on the side, so that as we take questions, you'll already have those questions there. So as you think of a question, just type them in there. And then also, if you do have the end of this come up and you haven't gotten an answer to your question, just send the question to questionsingular@bizarrefinancing.com. And we make it a point to try and get everybody an answer, so that whatever your question is, we will get you an answer. All right, so what I want to do is talk about the oil company acquisition. You ready for that?
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, Gordon, before we jump into that, I know some people who may not have heard it may want to know the deal structure and how I did the first acquisition. And what I want to say is I didn't get too much into detail, but what we did with that particular company is instead of a sale, we did a partnership. Like I said, we kept him in as a 40% partner, and I kept 60% of the deal. And we did the deal through what is known as a land trust. And the reason I put the company in a land trust was due to a law called the Garnes Saint Germain Federal Depository Act of 1982, which states that a bank cannot call a loan due on property if it is put into a trust for estate purposes. And by us keeping him on as a partner, it didn't institute as a sale, which allowed him, like I said, to take the tax benefits, but it also allowed us to protect the property from the bank for them calling the loan due. And now that puts me in position as the majority owner to leverage the assets. I did want to disclose that to, the pro members so that they know how we did that.
Right. Well, that sounds like even in a sense a pretty sophisticated piece of the transaction. So what we might do on that, Brian, is do a little write-up on that sometime so that somebody can actually have it in writing. What are the steps? Where do they find these pieces to research better so that this is a tool that's available to everybody? Because we really try to share knowledge here. I think that's such a big piece of the benefit of being in our organization here is the ability to do that. All right, so moving ahead to the oil company, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flash some pictures on the screen here, and maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about the company and a little bit about the deal as I'm going through the pictures. So let's start with this picture here. That looks like you in front of some oil barrels.
That's actually my partner. That's actually my partner, Jerry. And that was us kind of walking the property first, getting a feel for everything. And he's here with me sitting in the office. Howdy, folks.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great.
We're going to have to teach your partner how to speak articulately. He's got a lot to learn.
He's sharp.
Yeah.
No, but that's him standing in front of the oil barrels. We've got about 10 of those. And we were really taking inventory and seeing the condition of them, really understanding what it's going to take when we take over the operations. There's maintenance on those things. And we really got to, get a handle on all those, that good stuff. So that's what that picture is. And this was the initial walkthrough. We didn't know that we were going to do business at the time. We showed up. This company is, hours away from where we originally stayed. So we came into town, got a hotel room, and, we're there to try to do some business.
Yeah. What's this one? Same thing?
That one is the same thing. That's me. That is me that time. I'm actually doing an inspection on one of the smaller barrels, and we were going around. Now, be mindful, when we came there, I do have a background in construction. I own a construction company, but I didn't know anything about oil tankers. So a lot of stuff we Googled and learned, as much a crash course on the oil business as we could. So when we came into the company, we could have somewhat of an intelligent conversation, Gordon.
Well, that's great. What about this one?
Now, this particular one, it's not a shed, but it's one of the outhouses that pretty much houses the electrical based on the state regulations. We have to cut the pumps off to the oil tankers every night, and we have to cut them on in the morning when we come, just to make sure there's no spills or anything. So that's just a picture of that outside building there that holds all the electrical that cuts those pumps on and off.
Okay. And let's take that one.
That's one of the trucks. So, when you're dealing with Able, if you want to have these good pictures like this, man, to show some of the assets in the inventory that we have. But we have 5 of those trucks that are up and running that, service the convenience stores and service the general public. And that was just a picture of, the condition of the trucks. They're in great condition. And that's just one of them there. The other ones were out. The other ones were out in the they were out, making money. So
yeah, you're right. That's what you don't want them sitting in the yard.
I don't want them parked, man. I don't want them parked.
Right. Okay. Is this the owner here?
This is the owner. This is a great picture, man. This is Jim here, and my business partner and I, we were actually there building that cosmic bond that we talked about. This is him really digging through the financials. A lot of the stuff is boring. But when you take a genuine interest in the owner and get to understand why they run the company the way they run it and how they do what they do, then you'll begin to start to understand them better, and you'll have a different love for the business and the company that you're acquiring. And if you look in that picture, Gordon, you can see this old-timey phone sitting in the front of his desk. This shows you the level of operation that they're running. He's making $3.5 million, and he's still writing out his orders on the wall on a piece of paper, printing paper, and drawing out the drawing out the boards and using this old phone. So they have no systems and no optimized, way of getting things done. So, he's been doing this since the 90s when he purchased the company. So.
Right. Now, do you have any plans to upgrade any of this stuff, or I shouldn't say upgrade as much as update?
Yes, there's, because of the upside potential in that, we do. One of the things that we're learning is this is our first oil company. It won't be the last. But what we're learning is, because the demographics of that town, updating the systems could be a detriment to the business too. Because if the workers and everybody's used to operating on the old system, the customers who are calling in are used to the old system. You got to kind of gradually work that in over time. And it's not a thing that we can come in and just, change everything out, because it can be very detrimental, like I said, to the company.
Well, very wise, very wise. I guess that's another picture of the owner. Now, is that you or your partner? I look
That's
at
me,
you, and I do have a trouble differentiating the two of you. You guys that look like you were identical twins or something.
No, man, that's me again, and I'm standing behind the owner. He's actually going over the books, and he's walking us through QuickBooks and showing us his financials, and he's also showing us where he's getting the oil from, how much he's paying for it, how to access that portal, and how we're going to call our guys and tell them where to pick the oil up for us to distribute it to, the C-stores and to the general public.
That's great. Now he actually has a PC there, so that's
Yeah,
encouraging.
he's got a PC there, man.
All right, now this is both of you. I got it. You and your partner. So, which one's you? Are you the guy on the right? Let me just ask.
Yeah, I'm the one on the right. And,
all right. Hey, I got it. I feel better now. And
yeah,
the one in the center. Fantastic.
Yeah, here's the great thing, Gordon. I want everybody to take a note of this. Usually I'm in a three-piece suit, man, and I'm suited down, but in every acquisition, this is once again a tailor him acquisition. This is a very special, everybody's different. And this guy, he told us specifically, that he didn't want any shirts and ties out there when we were negotiating over the phone. So I made it my business to show up in khakis and kind of a little pullover there. And sometimes it's not always you showing up looking fancy like you can buy the company. Sometimes it's you just going there and building that bond. But I wanted to point that out.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good. Now, this is the same picture, but it's just where I wanted to make a note here for the rest of our conversation, because I'm going to leave this up, that we're going to be talking about the oil company acquisition. So
yes,
if you could now go into that transaction and tell us how that came together and what it looks like, and where are you today with it?
Great. I'm glad you asked. So the way this acquisition came about was, after I did the first one, I immediately came to my partner's office and I told him, I said, hey, I just did this deal, maybe a multimillionaire. He wasn't in on that deal. And he said, teach me everything you know. And from immediately, I went and pulled up your site and I let him listen to the 2-hour thing. And he said, okay. He said, let's really get locked in on this. This is an opportunity, and this is this can change our lives. I said, absolutely. It's already changed mine. So from there, we did the same. We followed the same steps. He told me, he said, lead the way. So we started calling professionals. And again, a professional brought the deal to us. And when he brought the deal to us, we got as much information as we could, such as the financials. We got profit and loss statements for 3 years. We got tax returns to scrub the profit and loss statements against. And when I say scrub the profit and loss statements against it, sometimes a P&L can be inflated. Sometimes those numbers can be pro forma numbers. So what you want to do is you want to get actual numbers, which a lot of times are going to be the tax returns. Now, do owners, fluff the tax returns? Yes, they do. But 9 times out of 10, those are going to be more accurate numbers than the P&Ls. So once we had the financial data, we began to do our due diligence. And once we got down to the bottom line, we used your ARM formula. Although we didn't have it, we used it. We watched it on Essentials, and we used the data there and how you came to the conclusion you came to as far as what a valuation is of a company. And we evaluated the company, and we said, okay, this company is worth every penny. And at the time, he was selling it for $900,000. He's kicking off $3.5 million in sales. He's profiting after he pays the bills and his taxes and his employees $450,000. We're like, this is a slam dunk. At that time, we get on the phone with the professional that brought us the deal, and we tell him, hey, we want to submit an offer, but what we want to do is, instead of submitting it online, we want to come down and bring it to him personally. And they really appreciated that, Gordon. There was a few reasons we wanted to do that. We wanted to do that, one, because everybody's sending them offers online, and it's not personal at that time. But when you show up in person and you come with an offer in your hand, it shows that you have some serious intent and you mean business. And they really respected the fact that we took the travel and the trip. And it also gave us an opportunity to negotiate anything that he might have disagreed with right in person. So I didn't have to wait for the professional to get back to me and say, oh, he doesn't agree with this and he doesn't agree with that. We came to him and told him we're not leaving the office until we have a deal.
Really good psychology going there. Now, you mentioned brought to you by a professional. What kind of professional was he?
This particular professional, he sells businesses, but he had a broker's license, and he is a business broker. This particular professional was a business broker. So right. He had this. This was almost like a personal, what they would consider like a pocket listing.
Okay. Now, when we talked the last time, you told me about a different type of professional that you found very effective, like working with attorneys and accountants. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the first deal came from an accountant. And as you mentioned in the essentials, what typically happens when one of these boomers wants to sell a company is they will go to the professional and they want to get an evaluation, because the professional, as far as the accountant is concerned, have dealt with the numbers directly. They've dealt with the payroll. They know what the company's bringing in. They know what the accounts payable and receivable are. And based on that number, they'll give them an evaluation of what they feel is fair for the company to sell for. And because these professionals or these accountants have that direct line with the seller and know that, hey, they want to sell it, they're prime candidates to really get these listings out of pocket before they hit the market and are, solicited to the general public.
And not only that, but then you've got a trusted advisor who brings you in at that point. Now that immediately passes on some of that trust factor to you. It's like a leg up. But yeah, the other question that I wanted to ask you, how did you get to meet the accountant? What process did you engage in that enabled you to meet accountants? I'm going to put a plural on that.
Yeah,
that then brought you to this great find.
This is great, man. I literally jumped on Google and I typed in local accountants in the area, and I got on the phone and called, and I told them who I was. I said, hey, my name is Brian Lewis. I own an acquisitions firm, and we're looking to expand the company. I'm looking to double the size of my company, and I'm interested in anybody who's selling, a business in this field, in this particular market, which is real estate. And, if we get the deal, we'll keep our business with you. And that was kind of the incentive for the accountant. And immediately, I didn't make it through 10 calls, Gordon, before the guy, Dale, he said, hey, I got a guy right now. This would be a perfect fit. He wants to sell the whole portfolio in the company. He's got a management company that comes with it. And if you can make the deal work, I'll introduce you. And that's how the whole thing happened. And he called the guy first, and then he said, I'm going to give him your number to call you. And when I called him, he was expecting the call. And we kind of went from there. But it did give me, it did instantly give me validation and credibility immediately, just because it came from his personal accountant that he's been with for 30 years. So, yeah,
no, that's all really, really important. One of the other comments that I remember you making was how packed with information that Essentials was. It's like, I know one of the complaints we get about the program is that it's like drinking champagne through a fire hose. But what was your impression of that?
That's actually pretty funny. The Essentials is extremely packed with a lot of gems. And if you take the time to really research and go through it and listen to what it's saying, and even furthermore, Gordon, a lot of the nomenclature or the parlance that I picked up as far as business talk and vernacular, I picked up from just listening to some of the webinars. I listened to you talk about certain things. So when I came into the company and began to speak about goodwill value and, you know, just different things, it put me at a level with the seller where he felt like he's done this before. This guy is well, he's astute, he's a businessman, and he knows what he's talking about. And it was really some of the questions I would ask, they didn't know the answers to, so it made me feel like the professional in the room, and they never validated or verified me as far as how much money I had in the bank.
Right, because you sounded like you knew what you were doing. That's so important. You know,
Absolutely.
credibility comes just from the way you talk. It comes
Yes.
just from the way you present yourself. And I know that one of the questions I hear all the time from people pursuing acquisitions is, well, they want me to show a proof of funds. They're asking me how much money I have to put down. They're asking me all this stuff. I never get those questions ever.
I hadn't gotten them at all, Gordon.
Yeah, and it's all in the way you present yourself and talk. The reason that people ask you those questions is they're trying to validate you. But if you validate yourself just by your presentation, the questions never come up. It's just an incredible reality of the way people relate to each other. So these are important things for our members to hear and to understand, because a lot of folks do get stopped at some of these points. And what is the best way to handle them is to understand these principles and to preempt it from happening in the first place just by the way you present yourself, by how you frame yourself, by how you position yourself, and by how you speak through the knowledge that you have. So anyway, very, very important pieces of this. So the next thing I just wanted to do here is talk about the mechanics of this particular deal. What do you
Okay,
do,
great.
and where are you now?
All right. So where we are now is the closing for this particular business is the attorney will have the paperwork by Friday, the final paperwork. So what we've done is we drafted a letter of intent with all the details. We all signed it. He got it to his attorney. So when they get the final contract in place, they'll send it to us. We'll have our attorney review it, and then we'll start the final closing. So we will have acquired this company by January 1 is the date, because, you know, of course, we're starting a new tax year, and it works out good for ourselves and our partners in the deal for us to go ahead and take control of the company, you know, at the beginning of the year. So this particular structure is similar to the first acquisition. We didn't recreate or reinvent the wheel at all. We kept him in as a partner. And one thing that my business partner came up with that really bridged us with the Cosmic Bond was, because we came in and had a genuine interest with this seller, Jim, we found out some information from his broker and from him that really helped us. And that information that we found out from asking questions and taking a genuine interest was that his wife had recently died. And my business partner, when we're sitting in the negotiation, he asked the question, he says, Jim, what was your wife very passionate about? And he goes into this long thing that, you know, she would help orphans and widowed women and, you know, people in prison and, you know, this whole thing. And what we did when we structured our offer, we gave him multiple offers for one. Now I'm going to give you the nuts and bolts here. We gave him multiple offers. One was a cash offer, and of course we made that offer stink a little bit. We made it way less than what he was asking for because we didn't want him to take that. The next offers were all owner finance offers, but the terms just changed a little bit different. But what we did, and we knew which way we wanted him to go, but in the offer we wanted him to take, my partner said, well, let's incorporate a philanthropic initiative for his wife, Linda, and we're going to add that in, that we will give a certain percentage of the proceeds that comes from the company to the things that she was passionate about in a philanthropic gesture. So when we put that into the deal structure, as he's going through these different structures and these different deals, what ends up happening is he gets to the deal we want him to take. And when he read the clause in it, his jaw starts to tremble a little bit. He got real emotional. And at that point, it went from they're the buyer and I'm the seller to they genuinely care about me. And this is the first time he's seeing something done in his wife's honor since she died. So this level of creativity is things that gets deals done, because now it goes beyond business and it gets personal. And now it gotten to the point where the seller has said to us, hey, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure you guys are successful and can buy this company. These are the positions that you want to put yourself in, and you can only get there by taking a genuine interest in the seller and not always being so much about the dollar, what's the numbers. Those are all important, but you got to build that cosmic bond that Gordon talks about so much in Essentials. He talks about it in the Pro, but that is one of the critical points in the deal. And it was really just ingenious for Jerry to incorporate that into the transaction and the structure, because we knew which way we wanted him to go. So in other words, we gave the seller the cards to play with. We knew which cards he had in his hand, and all of the options worked out for us, but they also worked out for him if he took the right, if he took the right ones. And the ones that wasn't going to work out for him, we made sure that offer stunk so bad he wouldn't even look at it again. So,
well, one of the things that you probably remember me using the words in the Essentials program is that most people think of a business acquisition as a financial transaction. And I try to stress that before it becomes a financial transaction, it is first a psychological transaction. And
yes,
you got to remember, it's human beings making these deals, right? And they have emotions, they have needs, they have wants, they have passions, they have all that stuff. And if the deal is consistent with those needs and matches all of those within the seller, the chances of doing this deal are much, much better than if the numbers are right, but all of that stuff is wrong. So,
absolutely.
yeah, so that's a really good thing to know and to understand and to get out of what we do, and for you to have adopted that. Now, did you get that from the course, or did you get that all along the way somewhere?
Well, a lot of the stuff that we've gotten, of course, we've gotten it out of the course and just kind of hearing the structure, but the creativity part, you can't teach that. That's just something that comes, and you'll get it when the time is needed. Your brain, it's amazing, how it functions, but it will figure things out. But the philanthropic gesture and, adding that into the structure was all Jerry, but it helped us to get this deal where it is now. And to furthermore, tell you where we are with the deal, not only did we get to the closing table with it, but we're also in a position now where the deal was so good. We had one of our financing partners, guy's probably worth close to 100 million. He's done a lot of developing stuff in downtown Raleigh and things of that nature, but he's come on and decided to finance the whole thing. So we really literally came into the deal with none of our own money. We came in with some creativity and came in with a good structure, and the money appeared, literally.
Right. Now, this person that your financial partner, how did you find him?
He was actually a relationship that Jerry had. They had done some business together, and we've always connected ourselves with people, who are doing a little bit more than we are, but we've never had to come and pitch ideas or pitch, business ventures like this before. And we really didn't even have to sell it. He kind of got wind of what we were doing because, of course, first thing that we do as part of our due diligence is when we get the financials, we take it to our banker, we take it to our accountants and have them look through the numbers and scrub the data and tell us, hey, this can work or this can't. It just, so happens that we kind of use some of the same banks, and we got a personal relationship with one of the VPs, one of the banking executives at our bank, and they're friends. And, he kind of heard parenthetically about the transaction, and, we didn't really have to pitch it. We told him what we were doing, and he jumped in there. He said, I don't need to hear anything else. He said, send me the numbers. He looked over the numbers, and the rest is history.
All right. Now, you tell me if I'm wrong, okay? My guess is you have built a cosmic relationship with your banker.
Absolutely.
My guess is you've built a cosmic relationship with your accountant.
Absolutely.
My guess is you've built a cosmic bond relationship with any legal help that you've gotten.
Without a doubt, Gordon.
My guess is you built a cosmic bond with the investor.
Absolutely.
All right. I just wanted to bring that out because that's where it all comes together. It all comes together with a cosmic bond amongst other key people. So that's really just great. Before we get into questions, what advice or what thoughts would you like to share with our members? What advice or what thoughts would you like to leave them with?
Yeah, tap into your creativity, and you cannot underestimate your lack of knowledge or your lack of skills to what you can accomplish. If you tap into your creativity and you made up in your mind that you're determined to get a deal done, you're determined to change the financial future of yourself and your posterity, then things can happen for you in an amazing way. I would also say get on the essentials and get on the pro and treat it as if it were a PhD course and you're in college. I mean, the way that the webinars are set up, you can literally click on them. Even if you watch one a day or you watch two a day, get out a notepad, take notes. Don't just listen to it. My business partner and I, when we listen to Gordon's webinars, we have a pen and pad in hand and we're rewinding it. It takes us probably, Gordon, maybe 4 hours to go through one of your webinars because we're dissecting it word for word and we're writing everything down. We're really, getting into the nuts and bolts so we can get a clear understanding of how to do these transactions in, ways that it's taken you years from not just your own experience, but the experience of others like myself, so that we can convey these experiences to other people who can do it. And I'm just excited for everybody who's on the call, just because you're one step away from really doing a deal that can change your life and can change the life of your children, your grandchildren, and put you in a different position. I look at money differently. After the first deal, I realized that money is really just an idea. Money is a structure. We are entrepreneurs and we make money by finding problems and monetizing the solution. And if I can drive anything home, is build that cosmic bond and believe in yourself and just go for it. And I wanted to also add, when you were saying that I built the cosmic bond with the accountant and with the professionals, one thing that as I'm going through these companies and looking through their financials and things of that nature, there's one key component that they all keep having over and over again. And that is that they have a group of people or professionals who have helped keep them successful. It's one thing to make it and become successful. It's another thing to be able to keep it, have the right team members and people in play to keep you successful. Your accountants and your attorneys are very important. Even if you don't have the finance or the wherewithal to have an attorney on retainer, it doesn't hurt you to pick up a phone, call, tell them what you're doing and that you may need their help, and just have that number sitting there, have that card, so that you at least got a team lined up, so when the opportunity presents itself, then you're prepared. And there was a saying that says, I would rather be prepared with no opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So get yourself prepared. Prepare yourself for the $1 million deal. Prepare yourself for the multi-million-dollar deal. And don't think of it in the numbers terms. Don't think of it in a small manner that you got to start small. I got to crawl before I walk. Get out there, get it done. Even if you don't know how to do it, you've got the Essentials program. You've got the research section in the Essentials program where you can literally go in and type in keywords or type in things that will pull up webinars that have been done on the questions that you may have. Those are the key points that I would drive home. And, if you want to open it up from there, Gordon, I'm open to any questions. And, my time is good if your time is good, sir.
All right. Well, let's see what questions we have for Brian. I'm opening up the questions here. And if you do want to speak directly with Brian, we can open your microphone or we can just read it from the question panel that I have here. So let me take the first question that we see here. It says, Brian, can you share a few pothole failures that you have learned from and what got you into them?
Absolutely. That's a great question. One thing I will say, when you're dealing in this business, and I ran across this on the first deal, but because of the way that the deal was structured, I was able to work around it. When you're dealing in this business, a lot of times you are dealing with senior citizens, and you have to make sure the competency level of the person that you're dealing with, and you have to do everything you can to cover yourself and to make sure that they understand the transaction and things of that nature. On my first deal, let me tell you what happened. After the deal was done, his attorney actually closed the deal, but after the deal was done, his family, didn't really like the fact that we had did the deal for said reasons. I'm not going to really jump into that. But because of the way that the paperwork was structured and because of the owner, the deal benefited the owner. I took a genuine interest in the owner to see what his needs were and made sure that the transaction was beneficial to him. The deal was able to stick and remain, and he's able to benefit from it now, regardless of how his family members wanted to get involved and do different things. And I said this on the essentials: when you do these deals and you structure partnerships, it is always important that you structure the partnership to where you are the majority holder of the company, you have the say so, and that your partner who you bring in, if it's the seller, they're in a passive position. The reason being is because you have family members. If this person is to pass or they die or something happens, the family members will either have a power of attorney or they will inherit positions into the company. And if they inherit that position, you want that position to be passive. So one thing I would say is a pothole that can be a holdup is to make sure that you cover your bases. And it's very simple, to cover your bases with that. When you have the deal done, have a notary present and have the notary go over and ask the owner, do you understand the deal? You sure? Because the notary is a representative of the state. And once the notary has cleared them, then you're pretty good. But that is one of the major potholes that I saw, and we were able to overcome it very easily.
Just as a suggestion, too, that you don't want to end up with the relatives as a partner should the owner die or become otherwise disabled. And the way that you typically would overcome that is you have what's called a buy-sell agreement. And what the buy-sell agreement basically does is it says if he becomes disabled or dies, that the agreement already has in place a purchase price or a formula for a purchase price and a payout schedule that allows you to make the payments on that purchase price pretty much out of the earnings over time. If he's insurable, you can fund those deals with life insurance where the company would receive the life insurance proceeds and then use that to buy out the family's shares. But the ideal is to, if anything happens to the original owner, that you don't even have to deal with his family at all, period. It's just the buyout is just completed and they just get paid the money based on the terms of the buyout agreement. So that makes sense, doesn't it, Brian, as a way to make sure that's not an ongoing problem?
Absolutely. And that was one of the reasons we made him passive in the deal, because in a passive position, his family couldn't say anything about how the companies ran. All they can do is sit back and collect the check. So.
Right. The point is that way they're eventually bought out too, and then you end up owning 100% of the company because you're not going to get that knowledge contribution or the work contribution from the person who just died. That's not possible anymore. So you want to draw a finish line to the buyout. All right. Well, that's really good. The question that I would like to ask you is, what's your next deal going to be?
We're looking, since we've already kind of tackled real estate and we've tackled the oil industry now, we may be looking somewhere in energy or something dealing with outer space, maybe. I don't know, man.
Well, you'll be the next Elon Musk, I guess. And,
Hey, with these strategies, man, why not?
Yeah. Well, one of the things we do in the pro side of life, too, is we help the creativity along a lot by taking people through multiple sources of financing, multiple strategies and techniques and methods, and then we put them all together with case studies showing how that they're applied so that the creativity work is way more prolific. And now adding a little bell and whistle to it is now a whole lot easier when you're tailoring it than it was when you had to start from scratch and none of the existing strategies in essentials was adequate to do it. So in any event, we really work very, very hard here to make sure our members have all of the tools, all of the knowledge, and all of the creativity insights that they need to really do this and do it well. So, Brian, I want to thank you very, very much for sharing so liberally with us today. Really a pleasure to talk to you. And
absolutely.
Well, again, and thank you. And I want to thank all of you for being here and participating in this today. I want to remind everybody that we have another pro webinar coming up on the second Wednesday of January. So that'll be the next time that we have an opportunity to get together. We are not having an essentials webinar this month, which you're all invited to normally too. Those are on the fourth Wednesday of any month, but they aren't on the fourth week of December because of the Christmas holiday. So again, I want to thank you all for being here, and I look forward to seeing you all after the first of the year. Hopefully you'll make a New Year's resolution to next year at the very latest be in an incredibly successful business that you've acquired using the Bazaar financing methods and techniques. So I'm wishing all of you a happy holiday, a great New Year's, and a great 2021.